Welcome back to the Blade Lab. One thing that comes up in the sharpening world is the difference between the functioning of mirrored or highly refined edges and coarser or toothy edges. Some people generally, I believe, think that toothy edges cut better, especially when you're talking about things like, for instance, kitchen stuff like cutting through tomato skins or basically the skins of any sort of vegetables can be, in theory, harder to cut if you have sort of a smooth, refined edge as opposed to a sort of micro-serrated coarse edge. That is sort of the common wisdom. And just without having actually done a comparison to date, that's kind of my view too. Although I do think that if you get a refined edge sharp enough, then it's still going to cut very well. But I thought, why don't we just find out? So I have here, this is once again this Victorinox 6-inch kitchen utility knife. It is number 5.2003.15. It's an inexpensive stainless steel knife purchased on Amazon. And it, like its twin brother, which I've used in another comparison video, they're both now at 15 degrees per side, and they're both sharp. The other one, actually, as of now, they've both been sharpened on a 600 grit CBN wheel and then honed on Canadian Elite sharpener with various belts. So what I'm going to do is leave the other one at 600 grits, and then I'm going to take this up and produce sort of something closer to a mirror edge on it. And I'm going to be using, so this here is a 1000 grit CBN wheel, which has been used a lot, so it's probably closer to 2000 grit really at this point. And on the other side of the machine, I have the Tormek SJ250 Japanese wheel, which is said to be about a 4000 grit wheel, and it does produce a nice shiny edge. Talk a little bit about that as we go along, but I've already set up the height of the universal support bar to give me a 15 degree edge on this wheel. I'll have to adjust that. So let me just get going, and I'll raise a little burr on this side, and then we'll do the other side. So shouldn't take too terribly long because we are already at 15 degrees and the knife is already sharp. So what I'm mostly trying to do here is just take out those 600 grit scratches. Don't actually feel a burr yet, so might be at a slightly different angle than I was before. You can get pretty precise with these calculators for the Tormek, but it still could be off as much as half or 3/4 of a degree. Usually I find it between 1/4 and a half a degree. So yeah, I think I'm starting to feel a little bit of a burr already, so I'm just going to come in here. Just some nice, light, slow passes. Again, going really for polish here more than sharpening. Now I'm going to have to adjust the universal support bar. Excuse me, reaching for a towel. I'm going to have to adjust the universal support bar height because the these natural or composite wheels shed grit, and they thus change size over time. So you have to take that into account in the height of the support bar. So I'll have to run another calculation. This wheel here is almost exactly 250 millimeters, like 250.1 millimeters according to my measure. This wheel has somewhere on it, not much, so it's about 247.6 millimeters. So let's see if you can see what I'm using here. If we can get a focus on this. So this is called Calc App. It's a free app that's available, and you just punch in the main parameters that you have to put in are the diameter of your wheel. So I'm going to say 240, what did I say? I wrote it on the side of the wheel. 7.6 millimeters. The jig diameter, which is pretty constant. The projection distance, which is the I've described before, but it's, what did I do with the knife? Projection distance is the distance between the stop here and the apex of the blade. So that is not changed, or at least not significantly. It's 135.5 millimeters. And then, so what this tells me now is that the distance between the top of this support bar and the deck of the machine has to be 164.5 millimeters in order to have a 15-degree sharpening angle. So I'm going to set that, put my phone down for a minute. To do that calculation, I use a vernier caliper. So I'm going to set it to 164.5. And then sort of what I'm doing is sort of resting the bottom of it on there, and then the rod has to hit the deck to achieve the correct distance. So I'm going to lower this. Not much, it's not a big difference, but it's critical in terms of hitting the same angle. Okay. I'm just going to just tighten, there's some screws in the back here to tighten the bar down, doing that. And let's do some polishing. So again, this is the Japanese wheel. It's good for sort of stainless steels. It's I guess an aluminum oxide abrasive in there, so it's not actually very good for high vanadium steels or high wear resistant steels. It's just not hard. The abrasive isn't hard enough to cut the vanadium carbides or tungsten carbides. So it just doesn't do a great job polishing of those sorts of knives, but that's just a limitation. So let's start polishing. It takes a fair bit more time to get it polished on this wheel as opposed to just getting an edge on the CBN or wheels. So bear with me. You will see the wheel starting to load up. Take a quick peek, see how we're doing. Yeah, it looks like we're hitting it pretty square. Try to use up some of this outside part of the wheel. Keep it a little flatter. You guys will have to tell me in the comments if you enjoy watching this sort of slow process, or if you would prefer that I just speed it up and get on with it. I'm going to do, I don't know how many passes, maybe 2 or 3 more passes per side. So at this point, I may just speed this part up anyway. And I'll leave part of it at real-time speed, and then go back and do a little speed up. So I ended up, excuse me, having to mess around with the strops for about 15 or 20 minutes to get the 2 knives equal in sharpness. And when I finished, the 600 grit edge scored 70 grams on the best scale, and the polished edge was 75. So essentially the same. A little bit about the best tester. I don't know why. I was assuming in previous videos that people were familiar with it. Sorry, got something in my throat. But so let me just do a brief rundown on that. The purpose of it obviously is to test the sharpness of a knife. The way it works is there's a regulated filament that's supposed to give you the same result with the same amount of pressure every time, or thereabouts. And it's just, all it is the weight of you pushing the blade onto the filament until it breaks, and then the scale that comes with it is, excuse me, will record the highest weight that was applied. So basically it's giving you the amount of force that was required to break the filament, and that translates to the width of the apex. And sorry, Dr. Krychek, who I've referred to before from Knife Grinders Australia, has a edge deburring book, and part of that he discusses what the particular score relates to in terms of the actual measurement of the width of the apex. Maybe I'll include that or I won't. But in any case, what I will do is throw up on the screen the chart that Edge On Net provides with the tester, showing what the scores mean relative to different cutting instruments. So on to the actual performance test. Okay, here we are. It's the moment of truth. And just to sum up, the point of the exercise was to compare a toothy edge to a polished edge, because there is a, I think, prevailing idea that a polished edge is no good for, say, standard kitchen cutting type tasks, because the seems like the most common example would be, it's just going to skate off a tomato skin. It's not going to cut because the edge is just too refined. You're better off with a toothy edge. Might be the case, might not. Let's see. So we have our polished knife here and our toothy knife here, and let's see what they do. So I'm going to start out with, first of all, let's cut the bottom off this tomato so it won't roll around. I'm using the toothy knife here. So far, so good. And let's try the polished edge. Will it work? So I'm going to try to find a nice, smooth section of the tomato because there's a bruised area over some parts. So here we go. Seems to, there is no problem getting into it. So that was terrible. Okay. So yeah, it had no problem breaking the skin. This tomato is not super ripe. Let me see if I can't now that we've cut the top off it, just make a thin cut like we've seen in some demonstrations. Now, obviously it's going to need a little support here. However, it seems perfectly capable of making thin slices. Right, that's pretty thin. And delicious. We'll just even it out here. Do one more. I'm not a cook by any means, so I have to forgive my lack of knife skills in the kitchen. So that's good. Now I'm just going to compare that to the toothy edge, the non-polished version. First of all, let me see if I can do this without holding it. And yeah, I would say it goes in easier for sure. Still going to need some support. Kind of messed that up. I don't want this to be a test of my knife skills because that's going to be a fail. But I'll tell you, I think that's it went in easier, broke the skin easier, but it's not slicing as easily. The slice is kind of bunching up more than it did with the polished edge. You can see how it's kind of getting a little squirrely there, whereas with this one, it does not break the skin as easily, but once you're in, well, I'm messing it up again. All right, let me just go all the way through. What I was saying was, are we still on camera here? Yeah. Once you get in, well, maybe not, I guess what I would probably say is that I don't notice much of a difference one way or the other. So it might just be, the purposes of this test, just kind of like an aesthetic choice. So just a small edge retention test here. zoom out a little bit. Yeah, okay. So this will be the 15-degree polish. Started to lose some of my marker. So let's see how that does us as far as best course. And then we'll just wrap this thing up. Not the most satisfying experiment ever. So let's see, all the markers gone now. So I just have to see which one. Okay, so this is the first one is the 600 grit unpolished edge. And I just do it right in the middle. And I'm blocking you. $195. I'll do two spots. And here. $170 and $195. And let's do the other one. The polished blade. $160. And I'll do one more. There. $185. So the polished blade retained a little bit more of its edge than the unpolished, but it's a pretty small difference. Could be random chance. I wouldn't necessarily attribute it to the grit, the final grit rating. So to sum up, that experiment just established that there's not that much difference between these two knives, with one polished to about 4,000 grit and the other polished at 600 grit, and then both stropped essentially the same way. Make of it, as usual, what you will. Until next time, take care.